It was 1945, and the Second Great War had come to an end. America was finally at peace and was left with a booming economy and a prospering workforce. It was the ideal time in the American market for bright new inventions and ideas. One innovator whose future looked especially promising was Preston Tucker, an ambitious salesman, visionary, and inventor. Tucker had gained some notoriety from his previous design success of the Tucker turret, a gun used during World War II on the B-29 bomber. With life on the home front returning to normal, Tucker realized the need for an affordable automobile for growing American families. He quickly seized the opportunity to produce a completely original, all-American automobile, the Tucker Torpedo. Tucker felt a responsibility to provide the public with a safer and more affordable automobile. He was deterred in reaching his goals when government agents and members of the Securities and Exchange Commission, aided by an overzealous and misinformed media, became determined to cripple Tucker's corporation, which ruined his reputation and stripped him of his constitutional rights.
Tucker began his quest to produce his automobile when the Tucker Corporation was formed in 1946. The group of men who established the company included Preston Tucker himself, two former Ford Motor Company designers, and an assortment of other experienced auto industry workers. The corporation purchased a plant in Chicago in which to produce Preston Tucker's unique automobile and went to work. Before Tucker could even begin production, 100,000 customers put their names on a waiting list to buy his new automobile. Among the attention-grabbing features of Tucker's new car were several important safety innovations such as all-wheel disc brakes, center-mounted steering-controlled headlight, and seat belts, all as standard equipment. With the accolades and excitement of several automotive publications, things were looking very bright for the Tucker Corporation. Money was coming in at a steady rate, and Americans were growing more eager to purchase this innovative automobile. True magazine tested the car and wrote an article stating, "It is the safest car ever built, period." Additionally, Mechanics Illustrated published an article on the Tucker, expressing their great excitement by stating, "Tucker is building an automobile, and brother, it's a real automobile. I want to go on the record here and now as saying that it is the most amazing American car I have ever seen to date. This car will make every other car made in America look like Harrigan's hack with the wheels off."
Tucker and the corporation began selling stocks to interested customers. The big three automotive manufacturers at the time, Ford, Chrysler, and GM, felt threatened. Soon, government agencies began to poke and pry into the Tucker Corporation, which had become a potential threat for the government-favored manufacturers. They were sporadic in their harassment of the Tucker Corporation throughout 1946 and 1947, but became an even more significant obstacle to Tucker in 1948, when an investigation of the Tucker plant was ordered by the SEC based on charges of fraud. The investigation dragged on for over a year, and the Tucker plant was constantly filled with SEC and FBI agents. While the government was hard at work in an attempt to end Tucker's success, he fortunately had the full support of the country. Letters rushed in daily, with Americans expressing approval of and excitement for his car, encouraging Tucker not to give up. In response to their pleas, on June 15, 1948, Preston Tucker wrote an open letter to the automobile industry. "We have promised American motorists a completely new rear-engine motor car, and hundreds of thousands have written us that they are ready and waiting to buy it. We are fighting for their right as motorists to get the finest engineering American ingenuity can produce." Although the SEC agreed to keep the investigation private if Tucker would turn over all the plant's books and records, confidential information was leaked to commentator Drew Pearson, who according to Time magazine was America's best-known news columnist at the time. He made a catastrophic announcement regarding the Tucker Corporation, claiming that the SEC and Justice Department investigation would blow the Tucker firm higher than a kite. Within a week of Pearson's dire prediction, Tucker's stock lost more than 50% of its value.
Once they started investigating, the stock sale just dried right up. People aren't going to buy stock in something that's being investigated.
Pearson wasn't the only media source to slander Tucker, as there was an onslaught of scrutiny from other editorials concerning his new vehicle. Determined to keep his business running, Tucker refused to give up his records, stating the plant would be impossible to run without them. In response to his persistent refusal, the SEC filed a court order that forced Tucker to hand over the records. In order to save money for the corporation, Tucker mournfully shut down production at the plant.
The growing tension between the Tucker Corporation and the government was not simply two rivals butting heads, but was instead the result of several unrelenting businessmen with a grudge against Preston Tucker. Leading the charge against Tucker was Homer Ferguson, otherwise known as the Senator from Detroit, who had a reputation of being protective of Motor City's automakers. The SEC continued to file suits, and the media continued to berate Tucker and his corporation.
I think the press was really what built him up so fast, and also what ended up tearing him down so fast.
Finally, the tragic day came for Preston Tucker when, on March 3, 1949, he lost all control of his prized corporation when the government seized the plant. This loss was not the final blow for Tucker. On June 10, 1949, Preston Tucker and his 7 associates received an indictment of 31 counts of fraud. On October 5, 1949, the Tucker trial began, with Preston Tucker facing 155 years of prison if found guilty. First, the SEC accused Tucker of being a criminal, describing him as a con man who secured investors' money while never intending to actually build the car. Moreover, the SEC claimed that Tucker had never made a single one of his revolutionary automobiles, despite the fact that SEC and FBI agents watched 37 of the cars being produced during their investigation. In response to these false claims, Tucker had all 51 of his prized automobiles lined up around the courtroom, allowing the court to observe the so-called non-existent cars. For 3 months, the SEC overwhelmed the court, bringing witness after witness to the stand, some of whom even ended up inadvertently supporting Tucker. One SEC employee admitted in his testimony, "There doesn't have to be a charge. One can always be drummed up." After months of detrimental testimony, many of Tucker's co-workers and most of the country turned their backs on him when he needed them most, due to the media's misconstruing of the situation.
After all 73 SEC witnesses had spoken, the defense stunned the court with an unexpected response. Defense attorney Daniel Glasser stood and made one simple statement: "It is impossible to present a defense when there has been no offense." With this short proclamation, the case came to a close. Judge Labai declared, "Unless there is proof that the particular defendant whose case is being considered was acting in bad faith and with an intent to do wrong, he must be found not guilty." With Tucker's proclaimed innocence on all charges, the court erupted with celebration. The excitement, however, was short-lived. Although the legal battle had been won, the damage that had been done was irreversible. Tucker lost his plant, his corporation was completely bankrupt, and his credibility with the public was destroyed.
It destroyed him completely. He was a broken man for 3 or 4 years. He was scrambling, trying to clear his name. He came back to Ypsilanti, with his tail between his legs, and so his respect, and even in the little town of Ypsilanti, was he had to build that back up again.
Preston Tucker was unjustly stripped of his individual rights as a private automaker, not because he had gone against the law, but simply because he introduced ideas that threatened the monopoly of the automobile industry at that time. His car was a remarkable feat of engineering, far ahead of its time and its competition. Not only was the Torpedo mechanically brilliant, but its safety innovations were tremendous. Interestingly enough, within a decade of the court case that ultimately put an end to the Tucker Torpedo, the government slowly began to require all large automotive companies to install many of Tucker's safety devices in their cars. In 2002, a study was conducted by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. In that 1 year, 24,000 lives in the U.S. were saved in motor accidents from safety innovations alone, many of which were first introduced in the Torpedo. By destroying the Tucker Automobile Corporation, the federal government's negligence and the automobile company's lack of responsibility led to the unnecessary deaths of untold numbers of Americans who could have been saved by the safety features Preston Tucker built into his car. This does not include the millions of motor accident-induced injuries suffered by Americans, many of which could have been avoided due to the safety features introduced in the Torpedo.
We see that the Torpedo was not only an exceptional car, but also a potential life-saving device, dramatically and unethically shut down by the government. The hasty ending of the Tucker Corporation and its car was a regrettable decision, one that cost innocent American lives. Despite his responsibly taking a stand to create safer and more affordable automobiles for the American people, Preston Tucker was deprived of his rights to innovation and creativity, and America was denied the choice of safer transportation due to the impact of controlling car manufacturers and overreaching government agencies.